the power to associate a link between algebra and topology, the Hodge conjecture. The conjecture deals with Hodge classes. In the first glance it might not make any sense at all. What are all these stuffs? Let's have a look on this X. Here's where Sturmer's theorem helps us. The theorem says, for a given finite set of prime numbers, we get finitely many pairs of consecutive p-smooth numbers. In simpler words, we'll get finite number of pairs of consecutive numbers which does not have a prime factor greater than pk. The 17th century French mathematician and lawyer Pierre de Fermat wrote a very simple statement on the margin of the book Arithmetica by Diophantus. It said that the equation a to the n plus b to the n equals c to the n can have no integer solutions for integer values of n which are greater than 2, famously known as Fermat's last theorem. Do you watch my previous videos? Yes, they are Bernoulli's numbers. But why are they so special and where did they come from? In this episode of Bernoulli's numbers, we will get to know about their origin. Sigma, which takes in a number and gives the sum of its divisors as output. Now let's play around with this number. What if we take a prime number as input? They have only two divisors, so the result is obviously the number plus 1. Identity element, then we call this set a group. Now let's come to something more specific. We have a set, let's say R. We plug two elements, apply an operation. Now this operation can be x such that it's x over 2 when x is even and 3x plus 1 when x is odd. The interesting fact is that no matter what natural number we choose, if we follow the algorithm using the function, we eventually get to 1. This is the infamous Collat's conjecture. And extract a small graph from it, which is already present in that graph. The smaller graph is called an induced subgraph. Now, suppose we are told to construct a graph such that it doesn't contain a specific induced subgraph. It is a sphere in higher dimensions, 4 dimensions to be precise. And we say that two manifolds are homeomorphic if one can be reshaped into the other one without actually causing harm to it. In simpler words, take a piece of clay without having hold. Wind disturbances creating a vortex which under favorable conditions can give rise to a cyclone. We will basically be discussing about nascent cyclones or the cyclones which have just started to develop but is not completely developed. The source article is written by Kaushik Kumar Majumdar. Link 2, and it was important to know the blast radius of the bombs. In other words, its area of influence. We are well aware of its devastating effects and normal second order differential equation, but interestingly, we encountered this equation at number of instances. This is the Sturm-Liouville equation. Let's have a look at some of those instances, but before beginning, take this bird as a reference for understanding the ideas. Suppose you take a male and a female bird and breed them and account for the total number of birds in every generation. Let's define generation as 1 year. Say in the first generation, that is after 1 year, the population becomes 3. Attract with distinct speeds. Now once a runner is at least 1 by k unit distance from all the others, we call that runner lonely. It's said that every runner becomes lonely at some point of time. What's the shortest distance between any 2 points? You would say the length of the straight line connecting the 2 points. This thing can actually be proved by using the concepts of calculus of variations. But is this always true? Let's take a sphere and do random points on it. What's the shortest distance between the 2 points if we are restricted to move only along the surface? So, on the number line, if we take any 3 consecutive primes named as the following, and then take a natural number between the first 2 closed at the first prime, we get the following. P square. Capital small a is 2pq and small a has a frequency of q square. Now just as a side note, we need a pair of alleys to represent a character in this case. Now before proceeding further, let's try to understand what is meant by a basis.